Welcome back to our video series on scaling your AI startup in 6 weeks. My name is Yanni. I'm a growth partner here at Thinkk, and I appreciate taking the time to be with us. Today, we're going to talk about making your business efficient, making it standardized, and finally, making it absolutely massive. And so, before we get into this, let's go ahead and just remember the source of our credibility. The first one is on my personal side, with over a decade of experience in either launching, running, investing, or advising different firms. On Thinkk side of things, we advised over 45 different AI startups last year in 2024. And so everything that you're going to be learning here is going to be data driven and proven. The first thing to consider when it comes down to scaling your company is that it's not actually about doing more. In fact, it's more about multiplying your outputs without actually increasing your inputs all that much. And so before you even think about scaling, and I really mean this, before you even think about scaling, I want you to sit down and just consider three things. The first one is my business profitable? You want a profitable business before you go ahead and scale, because if your business is not profitable at a very small level, I can almost guarantee you it will not be profitable at a very large level. And so, what you want to do here is make sure that you're considering something called your unit economics. And so, for a gym chain, this might be one location. For a company that owns aircraft, it might be one plane. For a company that owns ships, it might be one boat. And so, what you want to make sure you're doing is making this one individual unit of your business as absolutely efficient and profitable and reliable as possible. Okay. So, all of this is going to come down to mastering unit economics. So, you want to make sure your business is profitable first and foremost. You also want to make sure that it's efficient. Okay. And so, this is where it just comes down to nailing your unit economics. And the final thing is it reliable? Okay. So, in other words, is my business running reliably every time, or does it only work 10% of the time? If any of these are not the case already, please go back and fix those. Make your business profitable, make sure that it's running efficiently, and also make sure that everything you're doing is very reliable, because what you're going to end up doing is if you decide to scale now, you're basically just going to end up with a very, very large mess on your hands. And eventually, instead of sitting there and trying to iterate on one little division or on one little business or on one little location, now you're going to sit there and have to iterate across 10 different divisions. Okay. And so all it's going to be is you're going to be losing even more money. You're going to be even more miserable, and it's not going to work out well for you. Okay. So in other words, if you're losing a little bit of money on a small scale, I promise you're just going to lose a lot of bit of money on a very large scale. So make sure that you get these things right before you ever consider scaling. But once you do consider scaling, there's a process that we go ahead and talk about here, which is make efficient, make standard, and make big. And so we'll go ahead and run through those. The first one is make efficient. Again, this comes down to mastering this one unit economic of your business. It's your business simplest unit. And again, that means that if you own a gym chain, this means like one unit. Okay. So before you go ahead and start considering a second unit, a third unit, a fourth unit, make sure you get the one right. If you own a hairstyling business for some reason, make sure that you go ahead and get the one barbershop right before you go ahead and add a second and a third and a fourth. Because again, you do not want to be iterating across 10 different divisions, or in other words, spreading mistakes or inefficiencies to 10 different locations that you're going to then have to go ahead and fix. So make sure you absolutely nail the economics here. And the first step in that is this process that we call make efficient. So in making your business efficient, we're going to do four things. The first one is you got to check the requirements. In other words, like question everything. Is the thing that we're trying to do the genuine outcome? And are the things that we're trying to do to achieve that genuine outcome, are those real requirements, or are those things that we're just doing for the heck of it? I'll give you an example here. We own a marketing company, or did own a marketing company at one point, which offered something like 10 different services. And the reason that it offered 10 different services because for some reason the company management believed that all those 10 different services were necessary. Well, what we ended up finding out after doing quite a bit of analysis is that people really only wanted two of the services. And so all of these extra time and effort and resource that we're putting into the other eight simply just didn't make sense. But we wouldn't have had that understanding unless we actually checked the requirements. The second step is after you check the requirements, you want to go ahead and just start deleting steps. Okay. So in this case, we went ahead and deleted the 8 steps that we didn't need and just went ahead and stuck with the 2. Keep in mind, it's actually important to delete quite a bit. And if you're not occasionally having to add back in steps that you deleted, you're typically not deleting hard enough. So make sure that you are okay and that every little bit you actually find yourself re-adding some of the steps that you have removed. Only then, once you have deleted all these steps, do you go ahead and simplify them. And so for you running an AI startup, maybe this looks like actually simplifying the code. So if it's originally 10 pages of code, try to get it down to 6 or 7 or 8, or maybe even 4. Um, this is a really important step too, because it makes sure that, again, that you're maximizing the efficiency on everything that you're doing. Only now that you've gone ahead and checked the requirements, you deleted the stuff that doesn't make sense, and you've simplified the things that are left, go ahead and speed up the process. Okay. And so you would be astounded to find out what is actually possible when you make timing a requirement. In one of our companies, a company called Untapped Strategies, it was a lead generation company that went ahead and was very involved in actually sending proposals out. And so what we realized is that we had a limit that we set of, hey, we're not going to send a proposal out anything after 72 hours. And so in making timing a requirement to go ahead and get those proposals out, we eventually got it down to 1 hours. And that's actually innovation that nobody has managed to match quite yet. So again, check the requirements, delete anything that's not necessary, simplify the stuff that is left, and then finally speed everything up. Okay. And so if it was originally taking you 4 hours, try to get down to one. And even if you don't make it to one, that's okay. You'll still make it to two, and you're still going to be better off when it comes down to just making sure that your business is super efficient. The second step to actually going ahead and scaling your business, again, comes before the scaling, right? So these are all the things that are necessary before you do that. And in order to standardize your business, which is the second step, you want to do a couple things. But to first understand what standardization is, let's look at the flip side of that. When your business is small, it's okay to offer little personalized services. And in fact, that's actually an amazing thing because it lets you compete with people that are much larger than you. You're willing to go deeper. You're willing to go farther. You're willing to really get into the nitty gritty and do things outside of the scope of what you normally do. But at scale, and when you're really trying to go and blow up an entire company, it's very hard to just do that on personalized services. And in fact, you're much better off at that stage going ahead and just standardizing your offering. And so I'll give you an example here of what this might look like for a consulting firm. In the beginning, you say, "Hey, hop on the call and we'll solve whatever problems you have," and you create some sort of custom proposals for them and all the rest. Well, over time, and as you decide to scale, let's say that you were working with three different stages of companies. Companies that are in the early stage, companies that are in the middle, and companies that are trying to really blow up. Well, you might end up launching three productized services. One of which would be, let's say, a launch pack. One of which would be like a growth pack, and one of which would be like called scaling up or something. And this is the way to go about thinking about standardizing your services. But again, the question is, how do you actually go about standardizing things? And the answer to this is that you actually need some data. Okay. So you want to go ahead and download all the data from your payment processors or your accounting logs or wherever you have numbers about what people are buying and how much of it they're buying and all the rest, because you want to understand of all the different products or of all the different services that you offered, which one actually contributes the most revenue to your company? And not only revenue, but which one has the highest profit margin? Okay, because the stuff that has the highest revenue isn't always actually the stuff that has the highest profit margin. Which one of these things actually takes the least amount of time to procure or to produce or to fulfill? You also want to maximize for things that don't take a lot of time to do that. You also want to make sure that that ease of fulfillment or the ease to bring it to market or the ease to do whatever you're doing is actually fairly straightforward. The least difficult, the better. And the final thing is, which one of these things do you actually enjoy doing? Right? If you don't enjoy doing it, definitely do not pivot your entire company around doing it. You're probably just going to end up miserable. And so the key here is look at all the data that you have and then sit down and actually go through all the products or services or offers that you do have and rank each one of these things by total revenue, by profit margin, by how long it takes you to do this and how much you enjoy this. And eventually you try to find the thing with the highest score. Okay. And so that is going to be the thing or the offer or the standardized package that you're going to go ahead and release. And then once you do that, the second step is you want to go ahead and just automate the crap out of everything. And so basically what this means is if there are things which are repetitive processes that you do all the time, things like your accounting or your content creation or your lead inbound forms or anything else, go ahead and automate it. This is a really, really important step to making things not only efficient, but actually standardized within your business. And it's critical to getting things right. AI actually adds one additional layer to this. And so it actually adds intellect on top of automation, which can be really, really impressive and important for a great business that really wants to go ahead and eventually scale. So make sure that you're automating things. Automate anything that you can. And eventually, even look to automate things that humans are actually doing right now. So um, if an AI can actually do the role of a human better, in my view, is actually more ethical to go ahead and get the AI to do it and leave the humans to do the roles that humans are naturally good at. do things that aligns with our nature. So things that require a strong human connection or a great relationship, things like high ticket sales, or maybe like caring for old folks or something. Like, I don't know that we're ever going to see, or at least in the next 5, 10 years, robots caring for old folks. Although I'm definitely going to watch this video in 15 years and swallow my words on that one. But it's a general concept: automate everything that you possibly can. And so the final step in actually scaling your business, okay, this is the part that everybody actually thinks of as scaling. But in reality, it's really all the work that you need to do before you can actually scale, which is really what we consider the scaling part. And so what it means to actually make big just means to actually pull the lever. And so Archimedes, an old guy in Greece, is famous for saying that if you give me a lever long enough, I'll be able to move the world. And the key here, when it actually comes down to making something big, is finding this lever, finding the point where you have the maximum amount of leverage. So where the least inputs trigger the maximum amount of outputs, and then constantly sitting there and pressing that button. So the first step is identifying that. And the second step is actually pushing that. And so there's a few different levers that you might find in your business. If you're an investment firm, or you have some sort of AI investment firm, well, your lever might actually be capital, okay? Because the more capital you can bring into the business, the greater your returns are going to be on an absolute basis. Obviously, the returns in that sort of business are all scalable and percentage based. Um, Maybe you own a marketing business. Well, if you own a marketing business, maybe the thing that you need to get to the next stage is actually clients, right? Like, maybe your lever is actually just how many clients you can get in the door. Maybe it's ad spend, right? If you have like a great e-commerce business and it somehow has AI involved, maybe you just need more ad spend, right? Like, maybe that might actually be the lever. You have a profitable ad campaign, and you know that as you subtly just increase the amount of ad spend that you go ahead and put in, that much more revenue is going to come back your way. And so maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's actually labor. Okay, so maybe you run like if you were running a door-to-door sales organization or something, at that point really comes down to how much labor do you have available to you to go ahead, because that labor is not going to be scalable, right? Like, if a person is selling something at one door, they buy, just um, by logic, they cannot actually be at the second door selling at the same time. And so the question there becomes, if labor is your lever, how do you go ahead and get that on board? It might actually be location. Okay. So, in other words, you might own like a slightly local business. And so, if you want to go ahead and scale and get in front of other people, well, maybe you need other locations in order to be able to do that. And so, only once it's efficient and all the rest of that stuff and standardized and automated, should go ahead and actually get another location on board. But maybe that is the lever that you need. The final thing is maybe it's actually your price. And so, there's a whole bunch of different things that you can play with here to go ahead and just get that lever together. But as a general concept, by the way, most of the time when a business does raise their pricing, they do end up making more money, or at the very least, making the same amount of money working with less clients, which is, again, perfectly fine. If you have questions or need some sort of help with scaling your AI business, go ahead and get in contact with us. Book a quick workshop over at Thinkk.com, and we will run through how to make it efficient. We're going to find your lever. We're going to make your business absolutely massive, and it's going to be amazing for both you and us. So I really appreciate you taking the time. By the way, I will be including a couple other educational resources somewhere around here, whether that's a description or a bio or something, so that you can continue to do your learning and really better yourself and your company at zero additional cost to you. So thank you very, very much for taking the time. I really do enjoy making these videos and going ahead and sharing some of the things that I've learned in over a decade of entrepreneurship experience. And I really appreciate you just taking the time and bopping in to learn more. So I will see you again in the next one. And thank you very much. Bye-bye.